Hey there, it's Cindy Thomas, your career coach and strategist. The Insiders Career Club was recently rated in the top 20 job search podcasts by FeedSpot. Check out their website link, it'll be in the podcast notes. Now, let's meet our special guest. Hey there, today we're talking tech, focusing on careers, changes, and the future of work. We're speaking to Nick Jain. He's the CEO of IdeaScale. He's a STEM scientist and Harvard MBA. He has lived an inspiring story, raised by a single grandmother in a small city in India, and graduated at the top of his class from Harvard Business School. Now, IdeaScale is ranked number 1 worldwide in innovation management software. As a CEO, he's growing profitability and the employee roster, even as the rest of tech struggles. Let's welcome him into the show. Nick, welcome to the Insiders Career Club podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Cindy. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm really looking forward to our conversation and glad that we could finally connect. So let's start off with you telling us a little bit about what you're doing now as CEO of IdeaScale and what you're doing to make the company grow in terms of profitability and the employee roster.
Sure. So IdeaScale is a 15-year-old software company, and we make a social network for ideas. So think of Facebook or TikTok where you put funny videos of your cats or dances, except on IdeaScale, you put ideas, and ideas could be part for new products, snacks in the kitchen, new programs. Anything can be an idea, and then your colleagues or your network interacts around that idea, voting it up, voting it down, commenting on it, iterating on it. So we're the social network for ideas. Our customers include major organizations like Comcast, Pfizer, U.S. Post Office, the TSA, and we are, the social network they use to innovate and make things better at their organizations each day. As for me, so IdeaScale has been around about 15 years now. We have about 100 people across 8 countries. I've been with the organization about 2.5 years, and my focus really since I've been asked, since I was brought in, was 3 things. Number 1, make our product really, really simple and easy to use. Any social network needs to be easy, otherwise people don't interact with it. Number 2, expand us globally. So I've taken us from a primarily North American organization to now one that has customers and marketing efforts all around the world, including in emerging markets. And number 3, it's really to improve the product quality from a technical point of view. So I've invested in a lot of technological improvements that customers don't necessarily see. It's not a new feature, but they will feel it as they interact with software, meaning it breaks less buggy. And that's really important when you're building software for large institutions because they want everything to be right.
So when your clients are sharing ideas, and you said it could be anything from saying we want a snack bar to something more serious, talking about projects that they want to do you have an idea of how your product is used? So do you have a sense of when people are using your product, whether they are using it for more fun ideas or are they using it to be more project focused or more business aligned focused to whatever their business may be?
Sure. I'd say about 3/4 of our customers tend to use us for more serious things to improve their business, or, a lot of our customers are government focused to improve their services to the general population. And about 1/4 of our customers or use cases are for more fun things. And some customers use it for both. And I'll give a fun example from us. So we use our own software, we eat our own cooking, and we use it both for serious things, such as people giving us suggestions on how we can improve our software. And then we also used it for a more fun thing where we used our software to find what our company mascot should be. So we asked everyone in the world, submit photos, ideas, generative AI images on what IdeaScale's new mascot should be. And that's a more fun one. But then there's very serious technical things that we use our own software for as well.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Can you share how in the past you have successfully turned businesses around? Maybe just give us, and you don't have to share what the business is, obviously, but just give us an example of what you did in one of those instances.
Sure. So the IdeaScale is the third or a business I've either co-run or run directly. And I think when I come into a business, I've been successful turning around a couple of these businesses, including some very, very large ones in the hundreds or tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. And I think there's 3 things I really focus on. Number 1, making sure that we have a lot of analytics available, that data is available, that people can make good decisions. not based on gut feel, but based on actual evidence and information. Number two, I try and implement a good decision making process. How do business decisions get made? And number three is I try and expand the business, or sorry, number three is I try and make sure that the product or service that we are selling actually creates value for our customers. Because I think that's really, it's part of my philosophy that I believe that I need to make a good product or service, not just sell a service. It's a lot easier when you're selling something great than when because you don't have to sell it then.
The sale is not as difficult, right?
It's if you create value for customers, they come to you. And I'm a big believer that my product should be so awesome or so affordable that customers are coming to me rather than me going to them.
Right. Okay, sounds good. So if you're taking a high level look at the tech industry, there have been a lot of changes lately, and it started not last year, maybe towards the end of the year before. So we have seen a lot of layoffs, and then we've also seen the full onset of AI. With the fact that your company is thriving now, what are you seeing in regard to other companies that is making them less successful? Are there any general themes that you see?
So yeah, Idea Skill has grown its headcount by about 20-25% over the last 3 years. That's not a huge, enormous expansion, but against a backdrop of an industry, as you note, that has shrunk, we're really proud of the fact that overall we've grown as a company over the last several years.
Mhm.
I think that there's two or three things that are going on that we've done a little bit differently than somewhat of the industry, than some other players in the industry have. Number one, due to no fault of employees, companies overhired in 2020, in 2018, 2019, 2020 for a lot of roles that they didn't really need, and they just had a lot of money lying around, whether that be high levels of profits or free venture capital money. And so they overhired, and now they're starting to realize that they can be a little bit more disciplined. Number two is that the work landscape has changed, right? Certain roles are less relevant today, and that's really driven by AI. There's a good example of this is generative AI technologies now replace a large number of content marketers as well as junior software developers as well. So people whose primary jobs was to churn out content, whether that be marketing content or code content, are less needed now because generative AI has made that so much easier.
Mhm.
And then thirdly is a fundamental shift in how businesses are thinking about the world, and particularly the macroeconomic climate. 5 years ago, everyone had lots of money, everything was growing. Today, we're in a very unstable political, global, and economic landscape. So when you're uncertain, rather than even if things are going well, you get a little bit more conservative. So a lot of companies have started cutting back on aggressive growth plans just because they don't know what the next year will hold out for them.
Yeah, that's very true. I was going to make a comment with regard to your first number one that you mentioned, the overhiring. Yeah, there was a distinct overhiring trend that was happening in that last year. And actually not last year, but actually the year before. And some of it kind of went over to the first quarter of this year, of last year. I don't think that businesses were so in tuned. I know that especially in the government, if you don't use the money, you lose the money, right? And that happens with a lot of companies as well. I don't think that their forecasting was very good. And I just don't think that they were looking overall globally with the business need for more people is not the same. So we've just seen the effects of that. I think that the need for more people and the quality of the skills and that are needed, whether they are technical skills or soft skills, is having a drastic change right now. It's really shifted. And people are starting to realize that a lot of the skills that they have, they're not going to be able to find a job. Those skills are going to be so outdated. And so I think it's a really good time for individuals to take stock of what they do and to see into the future. Is this something that am I doing something that AI is going to be doing and that they won't need me? Or is my job going to change so drastically that my skill level needs to change, which I think that's true for just about everybody, but to the level or the degree that AI and the skills will change for certain roles. So there is a whole change that needs to happen from the way that people look at their careers. So with that in mind, have you noticed more soft skills being used for your particular industry right now? Is there a shift? Because I think there is going to be a general shift with the demand and what is needed for soft skills when you hire.
Sure. So I don't think we have changed our perspective or value of soft skills. It's still very important for us that people can interact with one another in a professional atmosphere, be respected, as well as for external facing folks to be able to be personable and interact with customers or prospects. So that has not changed. It's not gotten more or less important, but it's always been there for us.
Mm-hmm.
What some of the workplace changes that have been driven by AI is really the level of productivity that we expect from people, whether they are soft skills people or hard skills people, has dramatically increased. So, I'll give two examples. The first is on the engineering side, people are expected to write better code faster by anywhere from 30% to 300% than they were 3 years ago. So you, as a software engineer today, you need to be a significantly, not 5 or 10% more productive, but 100% more productive than 3 years ago. And then conversely, on the sales or marketing side, some of those softer skill jobs, those soft skills are still important, but you're now expected to broadcast those skills at a greater magnitude. So if you were a world-class blog writer and you were writing one great blog entry a week, now the expectation is you're writing two or three because you have AI to brainstorm with or copyright for you or error check for you in a way that you didn't several years ago. So to go back to your question, no, nothing has changed in the soft skill side, but the level of productivity that we expect from employees has dramatically increased.
And so, from that perspective, do you feel that like 80% or 90% of your employees are using, or maybe it's 100, are using AI to supplement the way in which they work to be more productive?
Yeah, I have made very, very few hard decisions that this is something by hard, I mean like official mandates that this is something everyone at Idea Scale needs to do. One of them about a year ago or a year and a half ago was that everyone needs to use generative AI. So whether you're in our engineering department, our sales department, our marketing department, our finance department, everyone is using generative AI to be more productive. And that can be in producing content, in producing code, and error checking financial analyses. It is an expected skill that everyone who is at Idea Scale has, and anyone who wants to be hired at Idea Scale.
Is there a way in which that you, when you are looking at bringing people into the company, that you can judge whether or not they are using AI at a certain competence level?
Sure. So there's, I think, two things we do. Number one, we encourage all existing employees to go take continuing education courses, whether that be in generative AI or something else, and we pay for it. So, for example, I myself have taken something like 3 or 4 courses in how to use generative AI effectively, and we encourage everyone to do so at Idea Scale. That's for existing employees. For new employees that we're hiring, we look at kind of 2 or 3 things. Number one is we do ask them whether they are using these technologies and how they use these technologies. Number two is we ask them what their own expectations of productivity are. And candidly, from an employer's perspective, it really doesn't matter whether someone is using generative AI or not if they're incredibly productive. Obviously, it's hard to meet the modern threshold of what acceptable productivity is unless you're using some of these technologies. It would be analogous to someone 10 years ago, trying to, or 20 years ago, if one employee is not using a computer to do their job and one is. From an employer's perspective, it really doesn't matter, but it's very hard for the person who is not using a computer to compete effectively with somebody who is.
I'm thinking about when you think about the changes that are happening and will continue to change, especially in technology for downsized workers. Are you seeing any changes besides the outside of the world of AI, from programming to learning? Do they need to learn more Java? Do they need to learn JavaScript? Or I almost came out with COBOL. That's way back there.
I remember COBOL. I've done a little bit of
I
work in it.
remember too. I didn't have to do it, but I had to hire for it. Any of the other software programs, C++ or whatever, are there new programs that are really aligning better with AI that people need to learn or brush up on to start coming into the new age of
I'll
being a
offer
new
kind
age
of
worker?
two or three macro trends. Number one is if you're based in America or Western nation, you're facing more competition from people overseas, right? So, for example, a classic example of this is 4 weeks ago when DeepSeek, the AI model, came out of China. Imagine 20 years ago, a leading technology coming out of China or a developing market. That would be unheard of. Today, if you're based in America or France, you have to think about, hey, is someone in Nigeria or someone in China or someone in Mongolia going to create a competitive product? So that's number one. And whether it be the product or the people, you're competing in a global market. That wasn't the case 20 years ago.
It's true.
Number two is, look, on specifically on the technologies front, I think two things have changed. Number one is everyone is expected now to change their workflow to include these Copilot tools. So if you're a software engineer, you should know how to use a Copilot tool, whether that be Cursor, Amazon Q, GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever you're using, you should know how to use these tools in your workflow. And then very tactically, you asked about languages. Are they asked to learn new languages? The answer is more mixed on that. Every couple of years, new languages come out that people are expected to learn. Over the last few years, TypeScript, Go, Rust are new languages that have emerged. But if you're already an engineer, it's not too difficult to learn those new languages, but you are expected to always stay in touch with the new developments and new technologies that come out. Otherwise, you can't, you fall behind very, very quickly in my industry. And that's not just true, by the way, on the engineering side. That is also true on the marketing side. Imagine if you're a marketer who spent his or her career doing social media marketing on Facebook and Instagram, but you did not learn how to do marketing on TikTok. You have fallen behind the curve.
Absolutely, yeah. Or Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of these grapevine things that kids use. Let me go back to asking you, if you were a worker, a technology worker that maybe got downsized, and let's say that you were, I don't know, you're some kind of developer or programmer. Are there any particular areas that you feel would be advantageous to technical workers to actually focus and reshape their careers into? Do you see any? I mean, I've got a list of some areas that are growing, but I'd love to hear what you think about it.
Sure. So I'll offer three things. Number one is, and I've said this multiple times, but I'll reemphasize it. If you're a technical worker, make sure you are a pro at using these Copilot and Copilot tools, because every technology company now expects this to be a core workflow or tool. It's great if you know C++ or JavaScript. If you can't use GitHub Copilot or Amazon Q, you're in trouble. Second is, go sharpen your skills in some of the new emerging technologies and libraries out there. So I mentioned Go and Rust. Those are new technologies that have started, or new programming languages that have started to emerge and take off over the last 3-4 years. And there's a shortage of engineers who know those languages and are really, really good at them. So if you become one of the employees who's good at them, that creates a lot more job opportunity for you. It's kind of analogous to if you know COBOL. There's not that many people who know COBOL, so it's a lot easier to get a job. Not that I'm recommending people go out and learn COBOL or Fortran.
Does anyone still use COBOL?
Yeah, so almost all bank mainframes today are still written on COBOL. So there's a significant demand for COBOL workers because many have just retired or left the workforce over the last 5 decades since COBOL has been used. And then the third is, realize that you don't have to go work for a technology company to be a technical employee. There's a million companies that have very, very strong technology departments building in-house applications and using an example that I love to use is Capital One. So they're not a customer. I'm not being paid to say this, but Capital One has a very, very strong technology department that is building such important piece of infrastructure for one of the world's largest credit card issuers. And there's tremendous opportunities going to work in-house at a financial company, a healthcare company, an industrial company, because they also, almost every company these days uses significant amounts of software to run their business. So they need engineers. And I think a lot of people say, hey, I want to go work at a software company, not realizing that General Motors or Boeing or Goldman Sachs all need lots of software engineers as well.
Yeah, I don't think people have a broad enough focus. I agree with you on that, because right now everybody is digitized, and if they're not, they're going to be. And there's so many jobs, even in biotech. I can remember having a tough time finding people that could use a certain software that they needed to use in the lab, and there just weren't that many people. So you kind of have to think outside of the box. Some of the other areas, and I'll mention it to the listeners because these are jobs that are going to be predicted in high demand for the next few years. And I imagine after that. And the simple one is big data specialists, right? Everybody's talking about big data, and that's an area that people get into. And then you were talking about fintech engineers and AI and machine learning specialists and software application developers. I won't go into the other ones because there's green technology, and that's really not what we're talking about.
Can I push back a little bit on one of the suggestions? You mentioned kind of AI and machine learning engineers, and I know everyone's talking about AI and machine learning engineers, but I'm going to push back on that because if you think about AI is really broken into two types of people. One is who are doing foundational research at a cutting edge company, whether that be DeepSeek, OpenAI, Anthropic, right? And you only need a very, very few number of people to make those foundational models. Almost everyone else in the machine learning world is just plugging into Anthropic or OpenAI or Gemini and using their models. So the actual number of people who need to learn how to do machine learning is actually quite small. And those are the ones who are doing the cutting edge foundational research, either at universities or corporate institutions. Almost everybody else just needs to learn how to use AI effectively. And I think a lot of people are going to go get their ML degrees and realize, hey, wait, I'm not the world-class expert, so I'm not going to get a job at Stanford or at OpenAI. And I just spent 5 years getting a master's or PhD in this subject. Unless you're going to be the best of the best at machine learning, you actually don't need to be super technical.
Okay, I appreciate you pointing that out because people read the research that comes like I do, and they take it to heart and they go learn. And then you don't want to come out if you spent how much money going back to school and still not have a career that is going to sustain you for the next however many years, 15, 20 years you're going to work. So I appreciate that. And there are other areas that people can go into. And green and energy transition roles are also an area that technical people can go into and find good work and actually train for. Wow. That's a mouthful. So give us a little bit of an idea of how you came to where you are, how you came to be where you are. Tell us about where you started because your story is quite compelling.
Sure. So the quick story about me is my folks were immigrants from India in the 1980s to Canada. And I had a typical immigrant bootstrap childhood, right? My father was a janitor. He worked at McDonald's for a while. My mom worked at a factory for a while and then eventually got a good government job. Grew up small town in Canada, and then I got an opportunity to come to the United States on a scholarship and studied math physics. I really loved it and not very useful in my day-to-day job by any means, because it was like this. If you've ever seen Beautiful Mind or Good Will Hunting, it was the very strange sort of math you see on movies that no one ever uses unless you're a math professor at MIT. And then I spent 10 years of my career in Wall Street as a professional investor in private equity and hedge funds. And for the last and during that time, what I got really good at was understanding how businesses tick, what businesses make money, why they make money, how they grow, how HR departments work, finance department, like basically what makes a company tick like a machine. And then for the last 5 or so years, I've been applying that at actual companies, having run or co-run 3 different companies in trucking, shoes, and now software. And what I bring to the table at these companies is my number one, an emphasis on having a really good product and service. Number 2, at figuring out how to make a company stable and scalable. And number 3, to make sure it makes money, because as you know, no one likes to talk about it, but if a company isn't making money, that's not good for its customers because the company won't invest in the product. It's not good for the employees, they won't get paid, and it's not good for the shareholders because the company goes bankrupt. So I bring those 3 skills to the table, and I love kind of growing companies.
Okay, that sounds like you've had fun doing it.
I do. I love my job.
So and I don't know if you can share this, but where do you see your company going in the future, being able to support other companies in the future?
Sure. I think that there's 3 directions we're headed. Number 1 is we're still in an underpenetrated market. Less than 5% of companies or organizations who should have software like ours actually have some software, whether it be ours or our competitors. So 5% of the market is penetrated. That means there's 95% more for us and our peers to go after to support our customers or prospects. So there's just a lot of greenfield growth out there. Number 2 is geographical expansion. IdeaScale has historically been a North America focused company. Over the past year or so, we've expanded globally, and we're starting to see the green shoots of that expansion happening. So we're really excited about the fact that we've expanded to Latin America, Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia as well. So those are really cool markets for us to, again, bring a product that works to folks that haven't been exposed to it before. And then thirdly is adding more modules. So Idea Scale sprung out of this idea management solution, but we've realized that only solves part of the problem that customers are asking us to solve for them. They want us to be their full innovation partners. And to do that, we need to add other modules that solve other parts of their problem. So as an example, we about 6 months ago, we added a whiteboarding solution. So before something is an idea, it's on a napkin or it's on a whiteboard. You need to be able to just toss around ideas when you don't even know what to write. Because by the time you come to our core solution, you kind of have an idea and you want to put it to paper. What happens before you're ready to put it to paper? So we launched whiteboarding. And then later this year, in about 3 to 4 months, we're going to launch our project management module, which is what happens after something's selected as a great idea. So you put it on a napkin, then you put it on Idea Scale, you figured out what the great idea is. Everyone says, let's go do it. How do you go do it? Right? So that's the next piece of the puzzle. And over the course of this year, our plan is for us to have this piece of software that an idea can go from some strange, unverbalized notion in your head to something that is written down on a piece of paper, to something that has a team against it that is going off and going to go build whatever that idea is.
Okay. And when I read, it's great to hear you say that, because when I spent time on the website, I didn't review it again this morning, but when I went there originally and I was looking at, just reading all the information there, that's the idea that I had in my head that your software did. Is that it would allow me as someone that, let's say I'm a project manager somewhere, to be able to capture the ideas and work with a team, maybe globally, if that's the case, if you're a big company, to be able to work on these projects more easily and in real time, because I'm assuming it's in real time, right?
Yeah, it can as real time as you want. Some projects can take, days to do and some can take years. Our software, again, does all of the things that I just described in a light way, but what our customers have asked us for is a more more fulsome way of doing that. So the new modules we'll launch will go from our light versions of project management and our light versions of brainstorming into full-fledged standalone pieces of software that they can use, or they could stick with the light version that's already built into our core software, depending on what their needs are.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Nick, what ideas do you have or feelings do you have about where technology is heading as a whole? Do you have any ideas about that?
I'll say, I think there's two ideas I'll say on a macro end. Number one is, and this may be a bit of a cliche, is that technology is just incredibly empowering to people in ways that are unimaginable, right? I grew up till the age of 4, I was in India, right? And didn't have running electricity 24/7, running water or electricity 24/7. And that child growing up in India or Nigeria or anywhere else in the world can access information and build code or go to take courses from Stanford anywhere in the world with just the internet connection. And that is incredible. So I think technology is really, whether you call it leveling the playing field or allow humanity to realize its greater potential, that's what's incredible. I think it's empowered people at an individual level and organizations at an institutional level. So that's number one. I really like technology for that thing, for that impact on our individuals and our society.
Mm-hmm.
The second is that I think we continuously end up in a place where technology disrupts people, and that is always uncomfortable, right? And we were talking about generative AI earlier on, and that's eliminated a lot of jobs. Let's not pretend that it hasn't, but it has created opportunities for those who are able to use that technology effectively. That is an uncomfortable transition, but the genie's out of the bottle, so we have to live with that transition and believe, as has been the case with technology, every stage of technology so far, that tomorrow is going to create a much more happy, productive, and fulsome human society.
Very true. And to your point about, where technology is, it's limited some jobs, but it's also created new jobs. And so there are other areas for people to go into outside of technology, but still knowing technology, because you have to have some kind of level of expertise with technology in lots of areas like education. That's a big one because people need to learn technology and to learn how to operate with, in a technical world, because that's what we're living in. And it's only going to get more so. And there's lots of other jobs that I won't go into, but it has created a different playing field. And I love that idea, actually, because there are so many brilliant people around the world that didn't have access. Even if you want to call it a seat at the learning table, they didn't have that. And technology allows you to do that. And it's just amazing. And I think of the changes that I have seen in my lifetime. I grew up, there was no internet. I grew up, there were no computers. Until I got to college did I ever see my first computer. And because it was just being developed. And the changes that have happened just overall in the world from a perspective of work, I've watched changes happen. And I'll go back to, it used to be the layoffs. People would lay off and then they hire them back and then lay off and hire them back, depending on what was going on with the economy. And we're seeing that, but we're seeing it happen in a different way because the needs of business have changed because of technology. And it's just amazing to see it. We saw the biggest rate of change happen during the pandemic because people had to adopt to Zoom and all these as a way of doing business while businesses were shut down. And I can only imagine that's going to happen much quicker in the future. So amazing. Well, I want to thank you for your time. It's been my pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Sindy. I appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate all your insights. Thank you so much. Take care. Did you enjoy the show? Well, keep listening. And don't forget to like us. If you've been laid off or downsized or need a career pivot, if you need resume help or to sharpen your interview skills, I can help you. Set up a complimentary 20-minute call with me on my website at www.insiderscareerclub.com. Until next time, may God bless you, keep you, and make his face to shine upon you. Take care.